Welcome to Season 3 of the Take the Leap podcast. We want to thank you for being a part of this journey with us.
Whether you're just starting to tune in or you're a longtime listener of the podcast, you can expect to hear from entrepreneurs in all stages of their journey, how they got to where they are, and all the mistakes and victories they've had along the way.
We're excited to share new guests and have some returning folks from our first 2 seasons. Thank you for being here, and we hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome back, everyone, to the Take the Leap podcast. We're really excited to have Nedra Rezinas back on with us today. Nedra brings over 20 years of collective business experience to the table, including working with hundreds of businesses on their websites and marketing decisions. She is a marketing strategist and coach who helps service-based businesses create a 90-day custom marketing roadmap. In addition, Nedra coaches her clients on how to build confidence, consistently market their business, and gives them permission to market authentically and connects to their values. Nedra supports clients who identify as introverted, empathy-driven, and highly sensitive. Want to connect with people by building authentic relationships that can lead into referral partners, and want to remove feelings of shame about promoting themselves to others. Nedra also teaches at the School of Business at Portland State University and at the Oregon Small Business Development Center. Thanks, Nedra, for coming back onto the podcast. We really appreciate you jumping on with us again today.
We're excited to have you.
Yeah, thank you both. I appreciate it.
So it's been almost a year since we chatted last. Well, on the podcast, we have chatted. Both of us have chatted separately. But yeah, what has happened in your business since our last conversation? Anything pertinent to update us and our audience on?
Yeah, I've had a lot of reflection in the last year. Definitely life has changed in a good way. I think what has come about is I've been doing coaching on a marketing level for many years now, but what is the results are much bigger than marketing. And so I'm realizing I'm helping people beyond that with their businesses and even starting to help people with career coaching. And it's funny how with my teaching that has really played a role in helping students, but also helping just clients and people I know. So I'm in this new phase where I am just coaching people based on the challenges they're trying to solve. And a lot of it is helping them see what they can't see. I'm a very curious person and always wanting to know more, and so I can kind of dig deep in a really non-threatening way to help people see things in their lives that are possibilities that they just would never consider, and kind of open new pathways.
I love that.
I know. Yeah, that's so cool. That's so powerful. And I feel like 2025 has been the year for most business owners. I think everybody is like, what the heck is happening? And what do we do? And what's next? So I think that's really cool that you are kind of evolving as the world around us is evolving. And I think right now business owners are really struggling with, what do I do next? What the same stuff I was doing before is not working anymore. So what do I do? And it's hard to quantify that into a service of how do we get through this?
Yeah, and being and let yourself be creative and pivot and all the things, and know that there's usually it's a compound answer. It's not just one thing that's usually the answer. It's usually a combination of things, and giving yourself grace to try things out and fail and then learn fast and adapt is really I think a lot of people are doing right now.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's such an important piece too, that I won't say trial and error, but essentially trial and error, try new things, especially I don't know, I do feel like I've heard the business owners that just they keep doing stuff, and this came up in a previous episode that we were recording, of people being I'm just going to run it again, even though all my numbers are showing I'm getting half as much enrollment. This is, not doing it. And now is the time to experiment. and test and try things and repackaging things. And, the businesses that don't pivot, that don't figure out something new to do, are ultimately the ones that won't be here next year. And, I remember when we chatted last time, I mean, your business
Mhm.
has gone through iterations before it became what it is now. And so I love just seeing that you're willing to like try on something new and figure things out, or even hearing that like now career coaching is coming into it. I mean, it's a very similar skill set to career coach somebody as it is to marketing, coach someone, and being there to process that with them. But I also feel like the other really important thing that folks need to realize is they don't have to go it alone. Like it can be really
Yeah.
helpful to have a conversation with a coach, and it doesn't, I think a lot of people get really worried, or they're very burned by kind of the old way of coaching, where it's like, I'm going to pay this person $10,000 for a whole year, and it's this program, and it's got all of these different like benefits and milestones and stuff like that, and now it just can be as much as just like one-on-one conversations and be accessible, because I do feel like your coaching is very, very like accessible to somebody in a small business, and it's important for people to realize um, that there are different types of coaches and different styles of coaches. Especially, I
Yeah.
love that that you focus so specifically on folks who are introverted, who are empathy driven, and who are highly sensitive, because they can get really like intimidated by somebody who's a Tony Robbins esque style.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Be like, I don't want that person to be the one talking to me as well. So yeah, I really appreciate that.
Thanks. And I think about, I've been coached a lot, and I think about kind of pulling in all different pieces of like how different parts of coaching that have really influenced me or made me help like frame what it looks like to me and how I can help people. So, it's been really wonderful to kind of like, okay, I get a little sprinkle of this, a little bit of this, and my mentors, and it's just, I really appreciate what people have taught me over the years.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think no matter what's going on in the world, like businesses change no matter what, right? And so we all evolve. We all learn new things every single year. And I feel like I had a thought that was going somewhere with this, but I feel that's where my brain's at today. But I feel like, I just feel like if we can learn, I guess, to connect with other people and like be open to like working with coaches or just like having like a group of other entrepreneur friends, like you aren't like you were saying, you aren't alone. And this, yeah, being a business owner is really hard and things just change no matter what's happening. And so if you can learn to kind of pivot every year, I feel like every year you're pivoting in some way, shape, or form. And if you can learn to do that, that's going to be what makes you stand out and come out on the other side.
Yeah. Well, Tori, you're speaking to something that's very like happening right now in my life. Like I've been mentioning, like I used to run a women's business networking group, and it was before COVID. It was in person. It was really great, and then COVID happened. It was really hard to keep it going, and eventually it just closed, which is fine. But now I'm like, in the last few months, I've been like, I think we need this again, and I think we need to do it. I didn't even realize who I was serving. I was serving more people that were introverted women that wanted more structure, and I want more structure when it comes to networking. I cannot stand going to an event where I'm just having to schmooze the room. I'm like done. Like I
Yeah.
don't want it anymore. That is not something I'm seeking out. I've been there, done. I've paid my dues, so I'm just now relaunching a new version of this networking that I think is really aimed at people that, especially women-led businesses, that give them a chance to have more structure, have conversations with each other, and support each other and build community, which I think is something we all desperately need right now in
Mhm.
2025.
Yeah. We do, and it's such a buzzword, but it's so true. Like we all are desperate and for seeking that community again. And I feel like I'd love if you could talk about the quiet networking a little bit more, because I feel like
Mhm.
we all need some sort of space, but it's just such this like ambiguous word of like networking
Yeah.
and community and like meeting new people. And like you were saying, like
Right.
it is really hard to just be like, okay, I'm going to show up. I don't know what it's going to be like. I'm going to have to be extroverted or talk to other people and like put myself out there. And I don't even know how to do that anymore. So yeah, if you want to talk a little bit more about that, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, because what I did in the past, which I think was really successful, is I would take a topic each time we met and kind of dive deep into it. Like I'd pick like sales or business development or operations or marketing or something like that, and then ask questions around that. And then we usually start the meeting with introductions, of course, kind of going around, but not really spending too much time on that because that can just sometimes just eat up time. You're like, no, we'll get to the good stuff. And so then I'd kind of take the subject matter and then break it down to questions and then have like little rounds of 10 minutes each where you could get to in groups of 2 or 3 people and talk about it and like learn from each other and oh my God, all the really great gems that came out of these like multiple rounds of conversations would come out at the end, like kind of like a reflection period. And I can't tell you how many times I learned so much from these women. And then what I saw over time is that they started collaborating together and working together and helping each other. And that's something that, I think with hopefully with leadership for me and just creating a safe space is just a natural thing that progresses. And that's the whole point, is to find like-minded people that you trust and you can help support each other, whether you're, you know, working, like you're trading services or doing services together, or you're doing projects together. There's so many different ways to do this. It's endless possibilities.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you're creating that space. I was chatting with somebody the other day who's like a super introvert, and it was funny because she had an issue that like we were messaging on Discord together, and I was just like, oh yeah, do you want to like hop in a one on in a one on one or whatever, and we can just like troubleshoot it together like over Google Meet. And it was really funny because she was just like, I straight up thought you were going to like make me a Loom video. Like, I thought that would be your default. And I was like, oh, don't forget, honey, I'm an extrovert. So, like, I will be happy to talk to you, like, all day on this. But she's an introvert. So she's just like, I would have opted for the Loom. And I was like, I know that is like the way to do it. But I mean, it's so helpful to have these kind of different spaces where folks feel comfortable because, yeah, I mean, it is schmoozing the room. It's even myself as an extrovert, it takes a lot of time, and then you often get like stuck in dead end conversations that you're just like, no offense, no tea, no shade, but I am never going to use like a lot of times when you go to like chambers of commerce meetings and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to buy your MLM product
Mm-hmm.
nor join your thing. Like I know
Right.
what that is. Or it's like a business service like that I already have. Like there's all the merchant
Right.
services people and all these different things. And I was like, no, I've been in business for almost 5 years. Like I figured that shit out year one. Like I don't, and I'm like, and I don't, it's not something like I'll keep your information on hand, but it's not something that I'm going to push my clients. Like you need to join, this insurance company or this thing. I'm like, I'll have you in the Rolodex for when somebody asks about it. But also, I'm probably more likely to send them like 3 options and they can choose what's their vibe. Like, I'm not going to say this one versus, this one unless they ask me, the opinion on it. And I do feel like a lot of networking, especially I will just say networking in room with men, it's just like, how can I now make you my sales mouthpiece? And I was like, no, I got
Right.
my own shit that I'm selling. Like, I don't need to
Exactly.
now help you sell your thing. And also, if that's how you're going to treat me as just, like a punch card person that can now sell your thing, like I'm not interested. It has to be
Exactly.
a reciprocal relationship. You have to like show that you have some sort of care about what I'm like doing and offering too. So I do think that's important. And I do think that's something that you get more likely with women. Like you get to share your story and you get to have the conversation about why we started our businesses and things like that, where it feels very different in a lot of these kind of like more traditional business networking spaces.
Well, and that's the whole point of networking, right? Like, it's not to sell something, it's to connect with people,
Mhm.
it's to build relationships. And so many people don't know how to do that. And I'm putting myself in that box. I hate networking because it does feel like I'm just getting pitched at or that I'm supposed to perform and pitch at someone. And I don't want that. I want to actually connect with people. So I love that you are creating that space to make it a little bit easier too for people who are a little bit more hesitant to do that.
Yeah, and like you're saying, Ashlyn, like yeah, I originally created the first networking group because I was just so fed up. I remember I came home from like a I don't know, maybe a tip meeting out of something where it was very leads generation, and like you got fined if you didn't like do something, right? Like if you didn't show up, you had to pay money. I just like I don't like this subscription model. This is not working for me. And I remember coming home and like getting really mad at my husband, like I can't find a networking group that works. He's like, well, create your own damn one. I'm like, oh yeah, what I could do that. And that's when I kind of all came together.
Yeah, I love
That's
that.
great. I love that. Well, just kind of speaking of, you work with a lot of introverts and highly sensitive entrepreneurs. What's something that you think that they're struggling the most with this year in 2025, and how are you trying to like help them navigate through that?
Yeah, I think one of the things is feeling like they have to be on video on social media. Like I mean, I'm hearing this from all sides, and if you look at any kind of marketing statistics, it's like yeah, video is number one, and I can laugh and be like, I'm a bit of a dinosaur. I've seen things come and go. We'll see how long this video lasts. There's just something else going to come along and top it at some point, and it'll be something better and more spectacular, and just so I just try to remind people like me, if you are going to put yourself out there on a platform, do it the way you want to do it so you attract the right people. If you try to do video and it doesn't work for you, it's gonna it's gonna make you feel bad and it's not gonna come across authentically. And I can speak on this because I tried to do it myself. I remember I did this like challenge of like putting myself on Instagram reels. Oh my gosh, just like 4 years ago. I thought it was gonna just throw the phone across the room. I was hating it. I was just like, I did not like myself on video. I did not like the quick turnarounds, and I don't like watching myself. So I'm like, this is not for me, and I don't think my audience wants this. So I finally just gave myself permission to stop and just do something different. Which I think, just going back to my email newsletters, which are really like I've been using email newsletters since like 2007, and it's been a really great way to connect with people. So why would I do something different? And it's just I think just giving people permission just to do things that lend to their strengths and not feel like they have to be in this like extrovert world where they have to like be so loud and try to keep up with the algorithms. And oh man, it's just that's a lot.
Yeah,
It is. That's the
yeah.
biggest thing I tell my clients too, is it's like, you don't have to be everything to everyone. You don't have to be on every platform. In fact, you shouldn't be. You should be on the ones that, one, your audience is on, and two, show up in the way that you know you can show up in. Otherwise, you're going to not be consistent with it. It's like you said, it's not going to be authentic, and it's just not going to land. And so why bother? Like, yes, TikTok might be the easiest way, the most trendy way to get a point across right now, but that doesn't mean it's right for you.
Hmm. And it's so funny too, because when I talk to folks, like there's a difference in the kinds of videos too. Like I was chatting with somebody and, they're like, oh yeah, the last person I spoke to said I need to do like Instagram reels every day. And, I looked at her stuff and I was just like, okay, you have good information that you're sharing, but what is it specifically, about Instagram reels? And it was just that like she wasn't personally on Instagram. And I was like, well, what things do you use? And she used YouTube. And I was like, so what if we just changed it and you did it on YouTube? And she's like, oh my God, I can do that. And I was like, yeah, and it would be way better actually, because there's this whole SEO engine and all this different stuff, and you're competing, it's a totally different space. And that worked for her to start putting videos up on YouTube instead of focusing on being on Instagram. And when you do give people the permission to do the thing that feels right to them, it also shows up better for your audience, because like people know when you're just spouting bullshit on videos. Like it's not hard to see. And then I also feel like if you're showing up in a way on your marketing that wouldn't be the same as the person that they're going to interact with when they get on that sales call, when they finally have the service delivery, like it's just going to make folks feel like they were lied to, and you lose
Yeah.
all manner of trust that you've built by doing it that way.
No, there's definitely a lot of truth in what you both said. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing that when you are maybe you feel like you're feeling more introverted or just I think I hear a lot of people say they're overwhelmed, is to just go back to your relationships because that's really where transactions happen that are meaningful and people will trust you. So, if you are trying something new, ask a few people if they'll do a beta version of it and try it out and give you some feedback. Like you want to make sure it's a tried and tested thing. Like I think maybe one of you were saying before earlier, like, you're launching a thing. Well, before you launch a big thing, make sure it's viable and that people want it. And that is uncomfortable. It's hard to ask for feedback and insight, but that's where growth happens and it takes time, but it's going to be a much more solid offering and service if you do it that way versus like throwing something together and hoping people like it, which I've done before and failed miserably. So,
But I'm sure you learned lessons from from at
oh,
least trying
Mhm.
expensive lessons,
Exactly.
man. Yeah,
it.
the time I thought
I
I could like create a course and hired a film crew. Oh man, yeah, that was painful. So,
But I mean, it's just like we were saying in the beginning, like every year brings new challenges for business, and depending on where you're at in life, depending on what's going on in the world around you, in the industry, like things are always going to change, things are going to pivot, new trends are going to come, new trends are going to go. And yeah, the only thing that like you can do is learn and pivot and keep evolving as you go.
absolutely, it's so true. Yeah.
Well, and I guess a question that I have for you, Nedra, because you've been in business longer than both of us.
Yeah.
What keeps you going? Like, what keeps you motivated to keep doing it? Because, like, I feel like I've heard from a lot of folks this year because or this year and last year because it's been a really hard year. I mean, I've seen people like quit and go back to job jobs, or starting to doubt what they're doing in their business. And so, what I keep telling them is like, remember that you really want this and then treat it like you really want it. Like, go back, look at your data, figure out what was working before. What was the one, they'll be like, oh, I'm doing it the same. I'm doing it the same. I was like, but the world has changed. So, like, you have to test and iterate and figure out. And oftentimes it's just one piece that needs to be changed to adjust to what it's like. So I guess, yeah, from your perspective, like as somebody who has pivoted and kind of adjusted, what keeps you going?
It's a good question, and I think just like the freedom and flexibility that comes with being a business owner is really what keeps me going. One, and the ability to help people, uh, especially through the coaching. I that is amazing, and I'm lucky. I do teach as well, so that is very fulfilling, and that kind of helping students is also very there's a lot of things going on there, but I think it is really important to maybe have a part-time job to help pay bills while you are building a business to take all that pressure off. I've noticed when I've talked to a few folks that maybe were wasn't the business wasn't bringing the income they wanted, and then having some kind of like side thing or something that's flexible that isn't so taxing to allow them to still build their business can be like a very rewarding and is very common. And it's not talked about a lot either. I think that's something almost like a feels like it's almost like a taboo subject, but it's so common. And I think it's really smart to have multiple income streams. Like, I also manage an Airbnb, and that's another thing that I don't really talk about a lot, but it's definitely takes up some of my time and energy at times. And it's important to yeah, basically just, understand that you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket anyway. And you don't want to have one big client. You want to have multiple ways you're going to making money. And I think that's probably something to really keep your eye on this year, especially as things are changing daily.
Yeah. I always forget you have the Airbnb. I know I have it
Oh,
bookmarked
cool.
somewhere to potentially go stay at some point. Um, but yeah, I think that is something that a lot of people don't talk about is like getting, like it is totally, it's not a failure to go get a part time job, but in
No.
service to your bigger, like your bigger thing. Like I remember last year I was coaching a client through Prosper Portland, and she does a lot of markets. She's like a food. She makes like food for like the farmers markets and stuff, and she was just like, oh my gosh, like we don't have any as many markets during the winter, so I think I'm gonna have to get like a part time job and all this different stuff. And I was like, and that's okay, it's okay. But I said, but be prepared when your markets are overwhelming again in the spring. Like, find something that's going to give you the flexibility that you can go back to this and continue to grow it. And then I kind of gave her like all these things to like, be mindful of during this kind of slower time, that you can do a bunch of your social media content and make some evergreen, stuff that you can share at any time of the year. And like, here's how to prep again for when farmers markets come through, and building relationships and different things. And like a lot of times folks don't realize, like when they have the farmers market booths are pretty big. Like you could go in with like another vendor and just split your space and split your
Right.
table. And she was like, oh my God, I had never thought of that. I was like, is there somebody that, that you normally are next to? And she's like, yeah, there's totally somebody that I set up my, thing. And I was like, then save some money and you guys just cram it. There's lots of creative ways to like make your farmers market booth space. And so similarly to what you do with coaching clients, like just helping have that vision for them and like asking good questions and thinking through those things, I think is just so important. Because yeah, when it hits hard times, your focus can get like super super narrow and be like,
Yeah.
oh my God, oh shit, what am I going to do? And there
Yeah.
there are a lot of options. So
It's easy to spiral too, for sure. But
mhm.
yeah. Well, kind of like similarly on that note, since you've pivoted, a few times and you've been around doing this a little bit longer than we have, what do you do? Because like every time I feel like I need to make a pivot, or I need to make some changes or add some new service or whatever it is, I do run the risk of like burning out. And I feel like this year, like I'm hearing that from a lot of people, that people are burning out a little bit of like the constant change, not just from their business, but from like the world around them. So I guess, how do you handle that, what, without like completely burning yourself out? Or do you, like what is your process there?
That's a great question. I think, well, 8 years ago, I was pretty overwhelmed and just overrun with all the changes, like there was a lot of change going on in the world, and I realized that I had to reduce my exposure to the news. And so one thing this year I've been really good about is just reading these two newsletters I trust about what's going on, and then that's it. I just turn away, and I think I just part of it is just like reducing my exposure to social media and being really careful about what I read and what I input in my brain, because that'll get distracted and also be very spiraling. And setting good boundaries. And that's something I've learned a lot in the last 5 years is what to say yes to, what to say no to, and giving myself time to make that decision and not being so reactive. I used to be so reactive, and even like with texts, I don't necessarily respond right away, even if it's just good friends, because I just need time to process. And even like yesterday, there was just so many things coming at me, a lot of positive things, it wasn't necessarily negative, but I was just like, whoa. I'm like, I just need to sit on my back porch and just stare at the leaves and not think about anything. I think just giving yourself, like going out in nature, just going outside, just unplugging from the screens, I think is really, what we really need to be doing. Like I'm kind of worried about our society, and everyone's having these like AirPods in their ears and always listening to podcasts and always listening to music, or always, and they're not engaging with other people. And I feel like that's part of the burnout, is like they're not even listening to their own thoughts, and I'm a little concerned about
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
I agree because I've noticed there are a lot of folks, like, especially with like the AI revolution too, of like going to AI for answers and just kind of like detaching. Like, I think there are some like really good positive things to use it for, but I do
Sure,
feel like there's like I feel like a lot of times people are not critically thinking for themselves, or I mean, especially with like social media and getting so influenced on that of like having I mean, I feel like it's just like a giant group think, right? that you're having there, and then there are no new ideas, there are no
Yeah.
new like things, and that yeah, and that people are paralyzed in not even being able to make decisions and be decisive about what they want with their lives. And maybe that's why I love entrepreneurship, because I'm like, I could decide tomorrow that I want to be a pickle farmer. And not that I'm going to do that, but like, you know,
yeah.
I already started one business. I could totally launch, into something different. But most folks, like, even thinking about folks who like work in corporate or like a day-to-day job, like your only other options, like when I was, working for places, I'm like, okay, cool, let's try to go get a marketing manager or marketing director job over here. And you're so stuck in a single path that
Yeah.
you don't get much flexibility to make life choices, honestly.
That's
That's such a
no.
good point.
Yeah, like so on that, I've just finished wrapping up this career readiness course at PSU where I got to be a student. It was really nice. And that I learned so much. And I cannot tell you, I need to sit down and just like go through all my notes and see and parse it out and just gives my time give my brain time to catch up. It's just so much great information. And one of the things that I think one of the biggest takeaways is transferable skills. We don't give ourselves credit for what our experiences are and how they carry over into other things. Like just like you said, Ashlyn, like the fact that you've started one business means you have a lot of potential to start another. And in fact, I think um, as business owners, you definitely the first couple of businesses usually aren't always as successful as the second or third or fourth or what depending
Mhm.
on how there's so many variables there. But I think I know my first business was definitely not successful, but I learned a ton and that got me to the next one. Um, so I think, looking at kind of like your breadth of knowledge, there's so much that we don't give, even like for our volunteer work and things that we just take for granted, we don't give ourselves credit. And I think that's why it's really helpful to talk through with a friend or someone you trust to kind of help you see what you don't see, like what your strengths are. People just, especially women, we just do not give ourselves the credit we deserve.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. I mean, even just like recently, I was going through some of my previous work and like examples and stuff like that for a potential new client. And even I was like, I've done more than just this thing I'm presenting here. Like, why am I not including, like, why am I talking this down like it was nothing? Like, what am I doing? Like, I need to be doing this more. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That, or we don't give enough credit to like the stuff we did when we started. Like one of the
Yes.
I'm currently working on rewriting my current website for the .com, and then writing. I knocked it out of the park apparently for the website copy for the nonprofit specific website that I'm working on. And yeah, one of the things that I'm going to make sure to do in these new iterations is like case studies about the work that I've done, but also like using client feedback, and like, like I file everything in my email inbox by client, so I can, see the little notes and the little snippets that people have shared about the work. But yeah, we oftentimes we just move on because we're
Yeah.
taught as a society that like bigger and more is what we're supposed to go after, and we forget about all of this other backlog of like knowledge and cool stuff that we did. And yeah, so I'm trying to be like, I've been definitely more reflective on the last, things that have happened in my business as I figure out what the vision is for my future and future pivots as well.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, like one thing I do a lot is I try to like I use Evernote. That's like my brain dump. I put so many things in there. It helps me organize and tag, and it's just amazing. Anyway, so I will have like ongoing like what I'm accomplishing and put it under the month, and then just if I once it's done, I copy and paste it to like kind of have a tracking record, and then go back and be like, wow, this is what I did in May. This is what I did last February, and it's such a great like reminder of what I accomplished and where my brain was, what was happening at that time, and who I was working with, and it's really um kind of fluid, so it can help remind me of things too. Be like, oh, you should check back in with that person, or oh, did you what are you gonna do about that software, or like just little things. But that's a practice I learned from another coach, and it was really powerful, and I never knew how much weight it would be and how it would help my brain remember things and feel very like, yeah, I did accomplish a lot, or wait, maybe I didn't really get as much done in that month as I thought. Maybe there's a reason why, maybe I was teaching a lot then. I don't know. So,
Yeah. What classes are you teaching at PSU right now?
I am working with, I've been kind of spread out over three different colleges. So PSU, I've not been teaching there quite as much, but I've been really fortunate to be in the business minor department teaching essentials of marketing, which is so fun. It's such a great class.
Awesome. I love that.
That is really fun. I think we may have asked you this before, but what got you into teaching?
Yeah. So that was something that, it goes back to your networking and having someone that believes in you. Like, uh, I when I had my web design business, I was teaching people how to use WordPress and just how to build a website, which was it was a good place to start, but I realized like that's kind of limiting. But and it was funny because I was getting some like mentoring from Jackie Peterson at the SBDC back. This was like 7 or 8 years ago. It was a long time ago, and I was telling her I'd love to teach. And the power of saying things out loud to people is very strong. You have to like give yourself credit, like so I was like, yeah, Jack, yeah, I want to teach. And she's like, oh, well, I have this class, this web marketing class. Do you want to teach it? And I was just like, what? I was like, oh my God, like you really have something serious for me. And so she helped me figure out how to teach this 3 hour class that I'd never really done much teaching before that time. Was actually really terrified of it because I was just the public speaking. I'd done Toastmasters, but to teach for 3 hours straight just sounded exhausting and scary. And so she helped me through it. And then, it just built upon itself. And I got braver and braver and just tried different things. And that's what led to, being with teaching those classes at the SBDC led me to the opportunity at PSU. And it just kind of came from there. So I think, there's a lot of times I'd just be standing there preparing my notes with my dog, just practicing, just because I feel like for me, the more I can say it out loud and as it resonates, does it sound okay? And then I feel more confident, and then it's just
Mhm.
I'm a better presenter. And so sometimes it's been a long time in the beginning, just practicing what I was saying and feeling more confident, and now it's a lot less, which is nice. So that's good.
It's
That's actually a
awesome.
really good reminder, like as a practice. Like if you, even if you're not public speaking, even if you're just having like a discovery call with a potential client and you're nervous about it, like figuring out what you want to say and then practice saying it. Like even though you're not going to like read from a script or remember exactly how you said something before, like just that process of talking it out is so helpful. And I would even argue that writing is like the same way. Like if you are wanting to communicate through writing, if you want to like write a blog post or send an email or whatever it is, like having like the process of just like writing out that draft and then coming back to it is just so insanely helpful. And so yeah, it's a really good reminder.
Yeah. I will say I did take an improv class right before I started teaching PSU. That I didn't even, it was just more like a friend asked me to, and I was like, that might be a good thing to do. And oh my God, I'm so glad I did because teaching is like, you basically don't know what's going to happen. You're in a classroom, anything, a lot of things. It's kind of like you roll the dice. These students may not respond to what you're teaching and may not really be engaged, or and so that improv class taught me how to be spontaneous in the moment and be okay, and just like be okay messing up too, and just be like, oh, I goofed, all right, move on. And I encourage everyone to take an improv class if you can, because it really gets you in touch with your like the kid in you, and also just like you get over yourself and being in front of people, like performing in any kind of way. It was life changing, I'd say.
Oh, I love that. We did a
Yeah.
one of the leadership conferences for the American Marketing Association. One of like the side like little options that wasn't like learn how to run your chapter was doing an improv class, and it was great. I mean, we had some of the most unhinged stories because like they do a lot of like you talk about what it is, and then it like moves on to the next person. Or I think the most fun one was like they would like freeze people in weird positions, and then people would have to like take their places and stuff like that. And it was so great. So yeah, it does teach you to think on your feet. And yeah, I remember because like where you and I first met, you were speaking for AMA on your web design business, and just kind of like website to dos. And going back to Tori's original question about not burning out, I think what's interesting about you too is that like you sunset that entire business before moving on to this one. So instead of like trying to hold up both of them, which a lot of people do that, they're
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm going to figure out how to make both of these. You did let go of one, which I think is really smart for folks, and being realistic about that, as well as you see the pivot and as you see what the market demands. I think a lot of times people hold on to something so that's not working just so hard that it's just like don't pour yourself out into this, like see the
Yeah.
change happening and coming, and get yourself into something new instead of, yeah, don't sink with the ship, I guess is my thing there as
Yeah.
well.
No, I almost sunk with the ship though. Like I held on to that web design business a little too long, and I even had people, coming to me saying, "Why aren't you coaching? Why aren't you teaching?" And I was just like, "Because this is what feels safe. This is what I know." Sometimes you don't they say like there's a saying like you'll stick to what you know, even if it's like even if it's
Because it's
the ball
harming
that's
you,
coming.
yeah. Yeah,
Even
exactly.
if you're like, things are horrible. It's a horrible, it's what you know. It's like
Hmm.
you're just like, yeah,
Hmm.
this is comfortable because I understand it. But what, finally after looking at like doing assessments and seeing what my strengths are, that is definitely something I should not be doing. And I'll tell you, I am 10 times happier where I'm at now than that. And I had to go through all that, and it's painful, but that's how we grow. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's that's a whole other podcast to talk about that part of my life.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, even
awesome.
like you said, practicing stuff too. I remember when I used to like interview with for jobs, one of the reasons I was a really good interviewer is because the questions are pretty consistent that people have, and
Yeah.
like the same thing for discovery calls. I mean, there are things that people are going to ask you, how much does this cost, like you can kind of predict them, and the more that you can practice your responses to those, the easier it's going to get as time goes on. And yeah, I love that you say that you use Evernote, and like I keep notes on like every client conversation and all of these different things, because yeah, from day to day, like I won't remember, like I have no idea what I talked to people about yesterday, but I have notes about it. And so I think one of the things that you're making me realize is I should go back to those notes and like pull the good information off of them, instead of just leaving them on Google Drive sitting there.
Hmm. It's actually a really good idea. I also use Google Drive as my note taker, like just random documents for each client. And it's not the most efficient way of doing it, but I forget that Evernote exists.
Yeah.
Well, what's really cool about Evernote is it is embedding more AI tools, which are really helpful. So I find like I'll record myself kind of processing, working with someone, and then I'll record myself talking, and then I'll tell you that's way faster for them for that to transcribe than for me to type it all in. And then I don't know, it depends on how you learn. Like I'm a verbal processor, and so by me repeating back what I learned and what we worked through, then it really solidifies my brain and I'm able to remember it more. So I think it just depends on how you learn and playing around with that. But there's just some really amazing breakthrough tools that I think Notion and Obsidian are some other similar
Mhm.
tools that are doing some amazing things as far as organizing notes. Like my husband uses Obsidian, and oh my God, it's like data driven. Like the tags and the systems he uses to for his work is just incredible, and something that like he's spent a long time learning and playing with. So I think we're living in a time where data and information is so precious and in our thoughts, and so how can we record them safely in a way that we can use them later that still has meaning? I think that's
Mhm.
the name of the game. And like Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte is a book that kind of changed my life again too, where he talks about um, tools like Evernote and how you can use them. And I was sort of using Evernote like he talked about, but I wasn't fully like all both feet in. And then after I read the book, I was like, all right, I get it. He gave me permission to just run with it and to use it all the time. And even my daughter uses it on my phone all the time to do things. And so it's a real like useful tool for everything. Like my recipes, everything's in there. So
That's
So,
smart. I didn't even think about using it for personal, but that's so smart.
mhm.
like I
I have
think
all
even
these
like my
recipes. Yeah.
Yeah, like closing sizes in my family,
Yeah.
really random pieces of data that are like, oh, I know where to find that. So
That's really smart.
Oh, that is it. Well, we could go off on a total tangent about tech and tools and
Yep.
making things easier and more efficient. But I think also just having things in like one place that you can find easily. I do feel like a lot of folks, especially when they first start their businesses, they're like, I'm in this and this and this, and then being able to like consolidate it and have it in an accessible place is super super important and key so that you can find everything. And I like that the overlap. I mean, recognizing that you are a business owner and you have a personal life, like you know putting those things together to make life as a whole
Yeah.
easier. Yeah, I don't believe in
So
I
nice.
mean, I do, but don't believe in work-life balance. I think we find work-life harmony. Like, it will seep
oh, that
in
sounds good. I
no
like
matter
that.
what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. It's true.
Well, was there anything, Nedra, that we didn't cover yet that you want to make sure that our audience hears from you?
I think you both did a great job asking good questions. Yeah, I feel good.
Okay. Do you want to do the last question, Tori?
Yes. We are asking all of our guests this, and we were just talking about this, how we actually need to do it. But we are creating a playlist, and so we want to know what is on repeat right now in your home, song, album, what have you.
Oh, I love that. Actually, I just got a record player, so I'm really getting back into music, and
Love that.
I love going to record stores now. It's like it feels like something that was lost in my life in my 20s. I used to do that all the time, and now I'm kind of like reliving that happiness. So yeah, there's a couple. I think Jungle's a band that I love a lot right now. I'm trying to see if I get one of their albums, and then there's a band called Men I Trust that just is very like echoey, haunty, like just really like great songs. Yeah, those are two newer bands that I'm really enjoying right now.
I
Nice.
like it. I like it. We are going to make a season 2 playlist from
Okay,
all of our guests' answers on that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I
awesome.
think like we've gone through almost everybody who was on season one has come back as a season two guest, which has been really exciting too. So I was gonna be
Yeah,
like, we should ask our season one people, but I was like, I think we're having pretty much all of them come back on. So
I think so for the
that's
most part.
really
Yeah.
good. But yeah,
you can also
the
like have like the timeline of like the changes that people go through. It could really, I mean, you could have there's a lot of fun data you can play with if you have the time and energy to showcase that. Like, there's and how people have pivoted, like we talked about.
yeah.
That's a really good idea. I'm gonna write that down because yes, there has been quite a bit of change in people's even just like in the last year, people have pivoted quite a bit from what they were originally
Mhm.
doing, or they
Mhm.
offer brand new services, or they started new businesses. So
Yeah.
that's actually a really good idea.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't actually, now that we're like talking about that, it doesn't actually seem to have anything to do with like how long you've been in business, or you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
we've had people who have been
Right.
in business for a shorter time that are changing. Maybe it just has something more to do with like just what's happening in the world right now. Or
Yeah.
I went to like a networking luncheon earlier today, and the keynote speaker said something that I found very fascinating. She goes, I've been running, you know, she's been running this group for 25 years. And she goes, I've been through 3 Republican presidents and 3 Democratic presidents. And you know what?
Wow.
Doesn't matter who the hell the president is. You know, there's still key things that make business work. And I was like, that is so important, because I do think a lot of people like spin out on like
Yeah.
blaming stuff that's happening like in the world.
Yep.
And it is important to focus on that the thing, you know, the thing that came up in our conversation with you today is like learning to adjust as time goes on. That's
Yep.
the main, it's just like prepare to pivot, because it will happen.
Regardless of what's happening.
Yeah.
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 And
That's
then
a good point.
something else that's kind of related to like just I've been kind of like reading a lot of history and just thinking about 100 years ago and how can we learn from the past, right? And
Yeah.
and then we also have our own family histories, and like my father's mother, my grandma grew up in the Depression, and she was like one of 11 children, and she literally had like cardboard shoes. There's a picture I can see online somewhere where she like her shoes are barely holding on, and just really hard times. And then you have like my husband's grandmother, who they were very comfortable on a farm, had no problem, wholly different experience than depression. So I feel like we have to remember that not everyone has the exact same like experience we're having or our families have had. Like I think that, and that's something I've actually learned from a lot of my students and clients, is like, yeah, you have this family history of this, doesn't mean it has to be your history. It doesn't have to be your your
Right.
your reality. And I think that's been like mind blowing to me this week as I've been processing that. I'm like, yeah, that's some pretty trying to rewrite my own, like working through my own stuff here. So
That
It's a
is, that
really good
is,
reminder.
yeah, that is such a brilliant way to look at it too. And I do think that a lot of folks who do go into entrepreneurship, like they think it's supposed to be a certain way, or they have to follow a certain path, and it's not that way at all.
right.
So yeah,
That's what's so
appreciate
beautiful
that.
about it. It's like you can make a new path. You can do things differently. It's terrifying, but you're obviously wanting to do something. You want to solve a problem. You want to help somebody and do accomplishing something. Wow. And then maybe you're like me, like I don't want to go to any more networking groups. I want to do it differently. So yeah, do it different, and then see if that you can have, even if you have like a small little sliver of people that love it. That's all maybe you need. That's all the clients you need. You never know. So.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I love that. That's powerful.
Well, thank you again, Nedra, for joining us.
Yeah.
Listeners, all of Nedra's links and things will be in our show notes. As always, if you have any questions for us or have a recommended guest, you can send us an email at aloha@taketheleap-today.com, or hit us up on Instagram and you will get a message back from Tori. And until next time, we will see you back here on the pod next week. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Take the Leap podcast. Check out our show notes to connect with us and our guests. If you have questions about the episode or ideas for future topics, send us a direct message on Instagram or email us at aloha@taketheleap-today.com. If you're interested in being a guest, fill out the guest interest form on our website.
If you're a new entrepreneur who is looking for a roadmap to move your business idea forward, check out the Take the Leap course on our website, taketheleap-today.com. Members who join the course also have an opportunity to join us in bi-weekly co-working and group coaching calls to build momentum and work on your business.
And if you'd like a flavor of what we offer, sign up for our free webinar with the 9 essential steps you need to launch your business with clarity and confidence. See you next time.